The river is red, not from rain, not from mud, blood. That's what turns the Mara River red every single year. They know that, and they jump anyway. 1.2 million animals, one place, one moment, charging straight into a river they know is going to kill some of them. Nobody stops. Nobody turns back. The whole herd moves like one massive thing, like something invisible is pulling them forward. And down in the water, the crocodiles are waiting. This same scene plays out every year, has been for 1.5 million years. Before Egypt existed, before any wall was built in China, before a single word was ever written down in any language. This river was red. And you're about to find out why this death isn't really death at all. The biggest land migration on Earth doesn't start with a decision. It starts with a raindrop. When the rains hit the southern plains of Tanzania, fresh green grass shoots up within days. And right at that exact moment, 1.2 million wildebeest start moving. No leader, no signal, no meeting. They all move at the same time, like the Earth itself gave the order. 700,000 zebras move with them, hundreds of thousands of gazelles. And trailing behind all of them, lions, leopards, hyenas. This isn't a herd. This is an entire world on the move. 1,100 miles in a full circle. Tanzania to Kenya and back, all year long, never stopping. And the question nobody's ever fully answered. Why do these animals take the same route every single year? The route they know is packed with crocodiles, flooding, death. Wildebeest eat every day. The whole herd tears through 4,500 tons of grass every single day. That's not just a lot of eating. That means wildebeest are literally reshaping the ground beneath their hooves as they walk. The grass they chew down forces roots to grow deeper. The dung they leave behind rebuilds the soil. Seeds caught in their fur get planted across hundreds of miles. Wildebeest don't walk across the Serengeti. Wildebeest build the Serengeti. And that's the real reason what happened next is so terrifying. Because in the middle of the 20th century, something nobody saw coming happened. The wildebeest population collapsed, from 1.2 million down to 300,000. And when the wildebeest disappeared, the Serengeti started burning. These weren't regular fires. 80% of the entire ecosystem was burning every year. Think about that. 80%. Not a fire here, a fire there. Almost everything was on fire. It wasn't lightning. It wasn't drought alone. It was the absence of wildebeest. When the herd stopped chewing the grass down, dry vegetation piled up until it became a ready-made fuel source. One spark was enough to turn hundreds of miles into ash. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was what scientists discovered afterward. The Serengeti had been absorbing carbon dioxide from the air, acting like a giant lung, cleaning the atmosphere. But when the fires took over, the whole equation flipped. The Serengeti stopped absorbing carbon and started releasing it. The largest ecosystem in Africa went from being part of the solution to being part of the problem. Because of one virus. That jumped from cattle to wildebeest. Then the wildebeest came back, slowly, one by one, until the numbers climbed back to 1.2 million. And when they came back, the fires shrank back to normal. The Serengeti started pulling carbon out of the air again. Balance returned. That means one terrifying thing, one animal, one species, is the difference between a planet that breathes and a planet that chokes. But the herd doesn't know any of that. The herd knows one thing. The rain went north. The green grass is north. We have to move. And north is the Mara River. The river you can't go around. And you can't avoid. The banks are steep. The current is strong. And the crocodiles living in it haven't eaten in months. They've been waiting for exactly this moment. They've been waiting for 1.5 million years. When the herd reaches the bank, it stops. Thousands of animals standing on the edge, looking down, smelling the water, listening to the current. Then one of them jumps. Nobody knows why that one specifically. Nobody knows what pushed it. But when the first one jumps, they all jump. Within seconds, the river becomes total chaos. Thousands of bodies crashing through the water, crocodiles lunging, the weak ones getting trampled, panic everywhere. And the ones who make it to the other side keep walking toward the green grass, like nothing happened. The ones who don't make it stay in the river. And here's the part nobody expected. The bodies don't go to waste. When ecologist Amanda Subaluski started studying the Mara River in 2011, She expected to find a disaster. Thousands of rotting carcasses in one river. The smell, the contamination, death everywhere. She found the exact opposite. The carcasses that pile up in the Mara River every year equal the mass of 10 blue whales. 10 blue whales dropped into one river every single season. Within weeks, the flesh breaks down and dissolves into the water. Carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus spread in every direction. Fish populations explode. Algae bloom. Birds show up by the thousands. The crocodiles get fat. But the most important part, the bones. Bones don't break down in weeks. Bones last for years, breaking down slowly, releasing their minerals into the river gradually over decades. The Mara River has been carrying a natural fertilizer in its bed for 1.5 million years without stopping. And when scientists compared these numbers to other rivers around the world, they found something shocking. The Mara River gets 4 times more biomass than dying salmon add to the rivers of British Columbia. The rivers of British Columbia, considered some of the richest rivers on the planet. Death here doesn't mean the end. Death here is the fuel. But what if all of this stopped? Not as a hypothetical, as a real scientific question that's keeping researchers up at night. Climate change doesn't ask permission. Rainfall patterns across Africa are shifting. Seasons are running late. Drought hits without warning. And wildebeest move based on rain alone. Nothing else. When the rain is late, the grass is late. When the grass is late, the herd is late. When the herd is late, it arrives at areas that have already dried out, and there's nothing left to eat. Ecologist Emmanuel Garretta ran the numbers precisely. If water sources cut off at the wrong time, 30% of the entire herd would die within 2 weeks. 360,000 animals in 2 weeks, and in 2024, this wasn't a hypothetical anymore. Unseasonable floods hit the Masai Mara and broke the banks of the Talek River. Giraffes and other animals got swept away. Migration routes got scrambled, the herd scattered. But that wasn't the scariest part. The scariest part is that this migration doesn't only exist in the Serengeti. It used to exist everywhere on this planet. Bison in North America migrated by the millions. Massive herds of Asian steppe animals crossed entire continents. Giant herds filled every continent on Earth. All of them are gone. What's left is the Serengeti alone. The last mirror of a world that used to fill the Earth. North America used to be another Africa. That's not a metaphor. That's documented scientific fact. 12,000 years ago, the plains where New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles stand today were packed with massive herds of mammoths, mastodons, wild horses, and camels. Yeah, camels. North America was their original home before they spread to Asia and Africa. There were American lions, cheetahs, and giant wolves hunting them. The world was completely different. Then at some point, everything started disappearing. Not slowly. Not over millions of years the way natural extinctions work. Terrifyingly fast. In less than 1,000 years, 73% of all large mammals in North America were gone. Animals that had lived there for millions of years. Wiped out in less time than a single civilization lasts. And the question that's driven scientists crazy for over 100 years. Who did this? The first suspect was climate change. Made sense. Was easy to accept. And comfortable. Because climate doesn't feel guilty, and climate doesn't get put on trial. Between 15,000 and 12,000 years ago, the Earth went through extreme shifts. Sudden warming, then sudden freezing. Ice advanced, then retreated. Entire environments were completely transformed. The plants those giant animals depended on disappeared from huge regions. And 12,900 years ago specifically, something happened that scientists call the Younger Dryas event. A sudden, severe cold snap hit the northern hemisphere. Temperatures dropped fast. Forests shrank. Rivers froze. The land changed. Scientists from Germany's Max Planck group said it clearly. The timing lines up perfectly with the start of the extinctions. Climate was the killer. Strong argument, real evidence. But there's one massive problem with this theory. A problem nobody could ignore. Climate changed before. Hundreds of times. Over 66 million years, Earth went through ice ages and warming periods over and over. Ice advanced and retreated. Ecosystems collapsed and rebuilt. Temperatures swung dramatically. and the large animals didn't go extinct. That single point is what blew the theory apart. In every previous wave of climate change, large and small animals were impacted together. No selectivity, no targeting the big ones over the small. But 10,000 years ago, the extinction was weirdly and suspiciously selective. Animals weighing more than 97 pounds disappeared. The smaller ones survived. Why? Climate doesn't distinguish between big and small. Climate hits everybody. But a hunter always goes for the big one, because big means more food. And that's when the evidence started pointing in one very different direction. The pattern doesn't lie. When scientists mapped out the timeline of every major extinction on this planet, they found something that climate alone cannot explain. Australia. 45,000 years ago, humans arrived. Within 10,000 years, 82% of the large animals were gone. Animals that had lived there for 50 million years. Wiped out right after humans showed up. North America. 12,500 years ago, humans arrived. In less than 1,000 years, 73% of the large mammals were gone. South America, same pattern, same timing, same result. Madagascar. Humans arrived just 2,000 years ago. In a very short time, giant elephant birds standing 10 feet tall went extinct. Dwarf hippos went extinct. Giant lemurs went extinct. The only continent where large animals largely survived was Africa. Africa, where humans and large animals had coexisted for millions of years. Where the animals had learned to fear humans, to run from them, to avoid them. While the animals on other continents had never seen a human before, had no idea it was a threat, they walked right up to it out of curiosity, and never came back. 178 species. That's the official count of large mammals that went extinct between 52,000 and 9,000 years BC. 178 species that are never coming back. The woolly mammoth. 6 tons of muscle, bone, and thick fur. Survived brutal cold for millions of years. Tusks 10 feet long, gone. The saber-toothed cat, teeth 8 inches long. The most powerful predator the continents had ever known. Gone. The giant ground sloth, the size of a modern elephant, could stand on its hind legs to reach the tops of trees. Heavier than any land animal alive in America today. Gone. The short-faced bear, 2,000 pounds. Faster than any bear alive today. Gone. The Irish elk, antlers spanning 12 feet from tip to tip. The biggest antlers any animal has ever had in all of history. Gone. The glyptodon, an armadillo the size of a small car, a bone shell that almost nothing could penetrate. 2 tons. Gone. The Earth lost half the genera of large mammals on the entire planet. Half. All at once. And all of this leads us to the one piece of evidence that cannot be dismissed. Wrangel Island. A small, isolated island in the Arctic Ocean, north of Siberia. Almost nobody's heard of it. But it holds the strongest piece of evidence in this entire debate. When mammoths went extinct everywhere else on Earth 10,000 years ago, the mammoths on Wrangel Island kept living, walking, eating, breeding. They survived for 6,000 more years, until just 4,000 years ago. At the same time the Egyptian civilization was building its pyramids, mammoths were still alive on this island. And the reason is obvious and shocking at the same time. Humans didn't reach Wrangel Island until very late. Isolated island, no humans. Mammoth alive, humans arrive, mammoth extinct. This equation repeated itself everywhere on this planet without a single real exception. And when scientists at the universities of Exeter and Cambridge fed all of this data into one statistical model, they said one thing. They said this research drives the final nail into the coffin of a debate that's lasted 50 years. Humans were the primary cause. But hold on, because what scientists discovered after that made this conclusion way more complicated and way more disturbing. Humans didn't know what they were doing. That changes everything. Our ancestors who reached North America 12,000 years ago weren't planning a mass extinction. They had no agenda, no awareness of what they were doing. They were just hungry. And the mammoth in front of them didn't run, because it had never seen a human before. It had no evolutionary memory telling it that this small thing standing on 2 legs was dangerous. It walked closer out of curiosity. Stood there looking. And that was its last decision. Large animals reproduce incredibly slowly. Elephants have one calf every 4 to 6 years. Mammoths were probably similar, which means killing 10 mammoths in a single hunting season was already more than the herd could recover from. It didn't take organized extermination. A few hundred people hunting normally over generations was enough. The math alone was enough to wipe them out. And in 2023, a piece of evidence showed up that nobody was expecting. Archaeologists did a chemical analysis of the skull of an 18-month-old child who lived 12,800 years ago. They looked at the composition of the bones and found the dietary signature of the mother during pregnancy. She was eating mammoth almost every day. Mammoth wasn't a special occasion hunt, it was a regular family meal. But there are scientists who reject all of this, and their arguments aren't weak. Anthropologist Donald Grayson from the University of Washington spent decades studying this case. And he said flat out that the human overkill theory had crossed from science into ideology, said it had become closer to a belief system than actual evidence. His core argument is strong. Across all of North America, with all its massive territory, archaeologists found clear evidence of humans hunting mammoths and mastodons, 2 animals out of 35 genera that went extinct. American horses went extinct, but there's not a single archaeological site proving humans hunted them systematically. American camels went extinct. Same story. American lions, giant wolves, not enough evidence of systematic human hunting. So how did they disappear? And in Alaska specifically, a number of scientists say the horses, bison and mammoths in that region went extinct during a period when humans were extremely rare there, or basically absent. Climate alone is enough to explain what happened there. And here the scientists stand against each other, evidence on one side, evidence on the other. But the middle is the most disturbing place of all. Because the middle means both of them are guilty. Climate weakened the animals, narrowed their habitats, reduced their food sources, made them more fragile than they'd ever been at any point before. Then humans arrived. At the most fragile moment in these animals' entire history, a hunter showed up that they didn't recognize and didn't fear. Carrying spears, working in groups, learning, remembering, planning. Climate alone wasn't enough to wipe them out, because climate had changed hundreds of times before and hadn't done this. And humans alone probably weren't enough either, not if the animals had been at full strength and full numbers. But both of them together at the same moment. That was the end of an entire world. Scientists call this synergy, and it's the position most researchers lean toward today. Not because it's comfortable, but because the evidence pushes toward it from every direction. But this synergy raises a question nobody's answered yet. If climate and humans together could wipe out half the large mammals on the planet in just a few thousand years, what happens when humans are millions of times more powerful than they were back then? And when climate is changing faster than the Earth has seen in 66 million years? That's exactly what's happening right now. Not a warning, not a prediction, it's happening right now. In just the last half of the 20th century, wild animal populations on this planet collapsed by 73%. That number comes from the World Wildlife Fund's 2024 report. Our ancestors needed thousands of years to wipe out half the large mammals. We're doing the same thing in a single generation. 1 in 5 migratory species is now on UN endangered lists. 97% of migratory fish species are on the edge of extinction. 40% of the planet's land has been converted into farms, roads, and cities. And the scariest part of all, the current extinction rate is 1,000 to 10,000 times higher than the natural background rate. 1,000 to 10,000 times. Scientists call what we're living through right now the 6th mass extinction. 5 massive extinction events hit Earth before this one. Asteroids, volcanoes, ice, cosmic and geological forces on a massive scale. This time, the cause is completely different. This time, the cause is one species. But locusts don't wait. While scientists debate and the numbers pile up, there's another disaster taking shape in total silence. Doesn't need thousands of years, doesn't need gradual climate change. It just needs rain in the wrong place. The desert locust in its solitary phase is a completely harmless insect. Lives alone, eats a little, doesn't bother anyone. If you saw one on the ground, you wouldn't even look twice. But when the density increases, when it finds itself crowded too close to others, something happens inside its body that scientists didn't understand for a long time. something at the microbial level. A study from Tel Aviv University found that a bacteria called Weissella lives in locusts' intestines. In the solitary phase, this bacteria is almost completely absent. But when locusts crowd together, this bacteria spreads between individuals and multiplies massively. And the bacteria is what triggers the swarming behavior. Not instinct, not a decision. Bacteria in the gut transforms a lone, harmless insect into a soldier in an army that cannot be stopped. In just 3 months, a swarm multiplies 20 times over. 80 million insects in every single square kilometer. And the swarm stretches for hundreds of miles. And the sky goes dark. In February of 1915, the people of Jerusalem looked up at the sky. It wasn't clouds. Within minutes, locusts had blocked out the sky completely. The sun disappeared. Daytime turned into near darkness. And when the swarm landed, the real silence began. The silence of trees being stripped of every single leaf. Eyewitnesses said a fully grown, healthy fig tree would be completely stripped bare in under 2 minutes. Vineyards and olive groves hundreds of years old were turned into bare sticks within hours. Wheat and barley fields in the Jordan Valley were eaten down to the roots. The disaster lasted from February to October, 8 full months, and that was just one region. In 2020, locusts hit 20 countries at once. Kenya, Ethiopia, Somalia, India, Pakistan, Iran, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and more. At the same time, in the same season. A Kenyan woman named Ndavu stood in front of her land after the swarm had passed. 4 acres she'd planted with everything she had, gone in hours. She said one thing. She said, "This isn't a challenge. This is life or death." One swarm eats the food equivalent of 35,000 people in a single day. That number alone should be enough. But the real numbers are way bigger. When multiple swarms turn into a plague spreading across continents, hitting 20 countries at once, the math goes beyond anything you can picture. And climate change doesn't soften this, it multiplies it. The irregular rainfall that climate change creates is exactly the ideal environment for locust breeding. An unexpected rainy season in a dry region. Grass suddenly shoots up. Locusts multiply at insane speed. Then the drought returns, and the locusts go looking for food somewhere else. And they move. The worse climate change gets, the more frequent these swarms become. The bigger they get, the more places they spread to. What hit Jerusalem in 1915 was an exceptional event at the time. Locals said they'd never seen anything like it in their lifetimes. Today, these events repeat every few years, and every time they're bigger. What does all of this mean together? In the Athi Kaputiye ecosystem in Kenya, over 100,000 wildebeest used to live there. They had their own migration, their own routes, their own complete cycle. Today, only 25,000 are left. Why? Land subdivision, fences, agricultural expansion. Migration routes these animals had walked for thousands of years were cut off by walls, roads, and fields. They can no longer reach their seasonal grazing grounds. The Athi Kaputiye migration is over. Completely. It's not coming back. And a 2024 study says that wildebeest prevented from migrating begin to weaken genetically. They become less capable of fighting disease, less capable of adapting. Gradually, quietly, without any fanfare, they head toward extinction. These aren't separate stories. These are threads in a single fabric. Nature operates on incredibly precise balances that you can't see with the naked eye. Pull one thread and you don't get a small hole. You get a collapse. The wildebeest disappear, the Serengeti burns, the atmosphere changes. The mammoth disappears. The trees it used to prune grow differently. And the entire ecosystem becomes something that never existed before. Every extinction creates a void. And every void redraws the map. And humans are creating voids faster than the Earth has seen since the asteroid that ended the age of the dinosaurs. But there's one difference between that asteroid and us. The asteroid didn't know. That's the only difference. And the heaviest difference in the history of this planet. When the asteroid hit Earth 66 million years ago, it had no choice, no awareness, no ability to stop, change course, or choose differently. We have all of that. Our ancestors who hunted mammoths to extinction didn't know. They had no data, no studies, no history warning them about what they were doing. And in 2024, scientists at Cell magazine published a study where they extracted the complete genome of a Wrangel Island mammoth. They found something nobody expected. The last mammoth wasn't sick. Its genetics hadn't degraded enough to explain its sudden extinction. It disappeared in less than 10 generations. And this happened just 4 centuries after humans reached the island. We know this now. We know what happened to the mammoth and why. We know what's happening to the wildebeest and how it could end. We know the extinction rate has blown past the natural background rate by 10,000 times. We know 73% of wild animals disappeared in 50 years. We know everything, and still, the numbers keep going up. And at that point, the question stops being scientific. The question goes somewhere much deeper. What makes humans know and keep going anyway? Numbers can't answer that. Our ancestors hunted because they were starving. The equation was simple. Hunger drives you. Mammoth is right there. You hunt. We don't go hungry when we clear a forest. We don't go hungry when we reroute a river. We don't go hungry when we build a road that cuts through a migration corridor 1 million years old. We do it for completely different reasons. Reasons that make total sense when you look at them one at a time. A road that connects an isolated village. A dam that gives water to millions of people. A farm that feeds a nation. Every decision is logical on its own. But the sum of all these logical decisions is what builds the catastrophe. 40% of the planet's land has been converted to human food production. 40% of the entire planet. And that number goes up every year. And yet somewhere in Africa, 1.2 million wildebeest are still moving, still crossing the Mara River, still dying and feeding the river and keeping the ecosystem alive, because something survived there. But for how long? Scientists have identified only one scenario that can stop this. Not new technology, not an invention, not an international conference. What saved the Serengeti once was simple. They left it alone. When the wildebeest came back, when the numbers climbed back to 1.2 million, it didn't happen because someone invented something. It happened because humans stopped interfering in the wrong places, stopped moving infected livestock, stopped the poaching, and let the system do its thing. The system knows how to work. It's known for 1.5 million years. The problem isn't that nature doesn't know how to recover. The problem is that we won't stop hurting it fast enough for it to keep up. Forests come back if we stop. Rivers clean themselves if we stop. Animals recover if we stop. The mammoth isn't coming back. That's true. The saber-toothed cat isn't coming back. The giant ground sloth isn't coming back. But what's left is still here, still crossing the river, and new research says wildebeest that are cut off from migration don't die suddenly. They weaken genetically. They become less immune, less fertile, until they disappear quietly, in silence, without anyone noticing. And the river is still red, every year, same time, same place. 1.2 million animals standing on the edge, looking down, smelling the danger, and jumping. Because the instinct driving them is older than anything we've ever built, older than any city, older than any civilization, older than any decision we've ever made. That instinct says one thing: move or die, and they move. Every time one of them jumps into the river, every time a crocodile gets it or it drowns in the current, its body doesn't go to nothing. It goes to the river, it goes to the fish, it goes to the birds, it goes to the soil, it goes to the grass that the next herd will eat next year. Death here is a closed loop. But extinction breaks the loop forever. The question you need to sit with after this isn't about mammoths or wildebeest or locusts. The question is this: our ancestors broke the loop with a spear, and they didn't know. We're breaking it with everything we've got, and we know.